at 11 o'clock on Wednesday mornings, where I read stories via Zoom, and I read books, and I talked with the children, mostly preschoolers. And then I get a call from one of our residents, Courtney Carbone. Courtney adopted the books for young children. I read her books during story time. She wrote the Peppa Pig series and Paw Patrol. And if anybody deals with young children, you know how widely accepted and loved those books are. So here we have Courtney in our own backyard in Oakland. Then I got another call from Edward Pickard. Edward Pickard writes books for older children, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders. In fact, he has gone to the elementary schools to read his books, and his book is Dusty the Dust Bowl and Family, and Their Adventure Begins.
I think I read that.
You read the Dust Bowl book? I'll tell you what it's about, so you'll see if you refresh your memory. It's a fun story with lessons of acceptance, friendship, and a father's love. And the book is available on Amazon. For all school-age children in Oakland, the Library Club, the Rotary Club is working with our library. They are putting together a time capsule scrapbook. And they're asking children up to grades 12 to contribute personal artwork, essays, and or poems. And this book will be kept in the library, looking for any topic or theme of significance to the children to reflect their memories during this pandemic. So can you imagine years from now reading or looking at these photos and pictures of how the children felt and experienced during this crisis? Now, an important message about property taxes. The 2nd quarter taxes grace period ends Monday, June 1st. That means your 2nd quarter taxes must be paid by June 1st. Actually, it means the borough must receive your taxes by June 1st. So don't think if you put it in an envelope this week, but it doesn't get to the borough until after June 1st, it counts, it doesn't. So remember, the borough must receive your taxes by June 1st. If not received by June 1st, calculations for late fees and penalties will be accrued from May 1st. It's very important, so you can drop off your taxes in the drop slot at the front door of the municipal building, or you can go online and pay your taxes online. But you have until Monday, June 1st. And with that, I will entertain a motion. Before I entertain the motion to open to the public, we're going to try something new tonight. All of us on the council, including me, will be muted. So when the public speaks, the public will be speaking, because that's actually what the public portion is. It's not a time of debate. It's not a question and answer period. So when you speak, you can address your questions to any of us. That council person will be able to questions during his committee reports, or you can email us or write to us or call us tomorrow with questions and make sure we give you the answers. So remember, when the public speaks, we're all going to be muted, and Michael who is our host, will be muting us all. Michael, you're on.
Don't forget about the raising the hands electronically.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I know you did.
Michael, do you know what they're doing?
Yes.
Okay, you're on.
Okay.
My computer fell. Okay, we're on.
Mayor, we do need a motion.
Oh, motion. My computer fell. Motion to open to the public.
So moved.
Oh, we're muted already?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we're muted.
Okay, first up is Ann Bernhard.
It's Ann Bernhardt. I live at 101 East Oak in Oak Crest, Oakland, New Jersey. My question is, I don't know who's responsible for this, but when you come out of the post office and you make a left to go to Oak Crest or Yarpo Avenue, the sidewalk is totally broken. pieces are chunked out. It's an accident ready to happen. And it goes from the post office, it's 20 squares. Linda, I sent you pictures that I did yesterday, and I sent them to you this evening. So I don't know who's responsible for that, but it's really terrible. That's it.
We're muted. Next, Michael.
Okay, if anyone else has a question, please raise your hand. It'll be on the right, top right-hand corner of your screen. Mayor, I see no hands raised.
If you don't have, I don't know what you have, but Michael, I have a different laptop, and the raise hand button is on the bottom right of the screen under participants. You have to click the participant button, and then on the bottom right is where the raise hand button is, for me at least. So I don't know if that is the case for other people.
Yep.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Richard, that sidewalk, can you take care of that with the DPW and check it out?
I'll talk with code enforcement about it. It's probably privately owned, but we'll take a look, and if it's something that the property owner has to fix or maintain, we'll do what we need to do.
Thank you. Okay, we have minutes from the May 13th council meeting.
So
Any discussion? Well, first, I'm sorry, motion?
Yeah, I have a little discussion.
Well,
Discussion on page 10.
Okay, well, we only had a motion. We didn't have a second.
Second.
all right, now, are there any discussion? Page 10.
Just for a correction on page 10. And the third paragraph, it says that Councilman Van Eck would only do it if a committee was created. I did not say that. That is not true. So I'd like that redacted, please.
Redacted or removed?
Removed, sorry. Yes, removed.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, that then motion to accept
So moved.
with the correction.
Second.
Well, roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Knapp.
Yes.
Councilman Levy.
Yep.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Eck.
Yes.
I have a special announcement, which is an appointment to the Green Team, and we have 2 people who want to join us. Thank you. And this is the mayor's appointment. The first one, and you have both leadership forms. The first one is Dana Andro, and please contact Lisa at the Borough as a follow-up. Thank you for joining the Green Team. And the second person is Elizabeth Ochoa. Again, once again, thank you, and please contact Lisa about the appointment. Thank you both for wanting to be on the Green Team. Now we have the budget. So we open it to the public, right, David?
Yes.
Yes.
Right, we're open the public hearing first.
Okay, so motion to open to the public on the budget hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, is this the supplement packet that we received?
That concerns the budget amendment itself. So we would just move forward with the hearing on the budget as it was introduced first. Then we'll go through the budget amendment and have some discussion on that.
So this is not the packet that was sent afterwards?
That concerns the budget amendment itself.
So what do we, all right, so open to the public.
Okay, if you're a member of the public, please raise your hand. It's either in the top right-hand corner, or you click on participants, click on your name, and click on raise hand. Mayor, I see no one raised their hand.
All right,
Motion
motion
to close.
closed.
Second.
Second? Do you have a second?
Second.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, David, you're on. This is going to be, we're going to be discussing Resolution 20-142, amendment to the budget.
That's correct. Thank you, Mayor. So a couple things have come up related to what's happening with the pandemic and COVID-19. We've got some additional information. We've seen some changes to some of our revenue streams. So we thought we should take another look and make some necessary adjustments. Does everybody have the supplemental package in front of them that came out this afternoon?
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's what we're going to go through. Going to start on the summary page where it's in the section budget considerations recommendations. So the first thing that happened is our bank reduced our interest rates. They reduced by what we were earning by 66% on all of our accounts, and that's going to reduce our anticipated interest earnings by around $75,000. The impact of the emergency orders on the summer rec program is kind of difficult to figure out what's going to happen right now. We don't know what the restrictions may or may not be. We don't know what residents are going to be comfortable with. We anticipate generally around $250,000 in revenue for the summer rec program. That'd be a pretty big chunk of revenue to have not come in. So we're recommending that we not anticipate it for that program, but we anticipate some revenue out of our reserves, and then we can offset anything that we do get and put back into the reserves if we need to. Cancellation of some programs, public events, senior center, library, that's eliminated or reduced certain salary expenditures or overtime. So we're recommending some corresponding changes to appropriations. We've delayed, based upon the state of emergency, some replacements, some personnel replacements. So we want to probably reduce those salary line items. And we took another look at some capital projects. We got additional information on one or two that will, allow us to make some adjustments there as well. The impact for us net would be able to reduce our budget by $138,000. And some of that would affect surplus. Some of it will affect miscellaneous revenue. On the appropriations side, it would affect all three areas: capital, salary, and other expenses. Rich, anything you want to add before I jump into the details?
No, I think that's good, David.
Okay. On the revenue detail tab of the spreadsheet, so again, our interest rate dropped from 75 to 25. We're just recommending that we offset with a reduction in appropriations. Summer camp, we're recommending that we look at an alternative revenue source out of one of our reserves. Energy receipt tax is pretty significant. It's about $1.3 million that the state has not confirmed that they're going to give us yet. The latest communication was, though, that we won't receive it until October. We normally start seeing it a little bit sooner than that. So that's a good sign that they're, at least saying that we're going to get some of that. If we don't get all of it, we'll have to raise it in next year's budget via fund balance. On the summer camp, in terms of canceling it, the appropriation for the revenue, that is, by realizing an alternative source, if the camp does not happen, we'll just cancel the budget appropriation, and then that money can go back to the reserve. If it does happen, then we'll have excess revenue in that revenue line item, and at the end of the year, we can take that excess revenue and roll that back through fund balance to the reserve. So this is just a way to make sure that we don't underachieve a significant revenue source for the year. Any questions on revenue?
No, not for me.
No.
Yes, the governor has been complaining during his press conferences about state aid is going, how bad the state is. And are you taking into account state aid?
That is the energy receipt tax. Comptra and energy receipt tax, they said the payment would be delayed in the latest communication. They specifically said for some of the aid to other organizations, schools, that it was going to be reduced. So the ERT and the comptroller, they have not specifically stated any reductions in yet.
Okay.
But we're paying very close attention to those. On the appropriation side, again, we're looking at how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected expense projections. We're looking to task each department or many departments to reduce overtime. This is both due to staffing changes and cancellation of some activities and events. The cancellation of the carnival is a significant driver in terms of overtime and other costs for both DPW and police. The things that have been happening within the finance department, less interaction with the public, extending the tax payment out to June 1st. We normally do incur a lot of overtime around tax due dates, which we won't have to do right now. So again, we're looking to reduce overtime across the organization by around $30,000. Again, there's some programs that won't be happening. Senior citizen programs, sponsored trips that didn't happen because they've been closed. The library has not had to do programs and have expenses because they've been down. So we've looked at some of those other items, school crossing guards being not working. So we've identified another $41,000 in savings there. Again, the two positions, the police part-time, the police permanent and direct part-time have not been backfilled yet. So we can save those costs as well. And we need to uptick our garbage, and we're going to downtick tax collection because we can charge that off to the FEMA grant. Because several of those line items are changing by more than 10%, that's why we're going to have to do an amendment that has to have a second hearing. Any questions on appropriations?
Not for me.
Okay, and the last tab to go through is the capital details. So Rich has looked at the furniture and the furnishings line item. We had originally planned $9,000 in court chairs, not knowing going forward what other changes we may or may not have to make in terms of the courtroom, how long the virtual court sessions may last. We thought it best to push that one off until we know more of what we may or may not have to do.
Excuse me.
Senior,
Well,
yes.
what about the grant? The grant from the Judiciary Grant? Will that
Right,
cover a lot of what costs?
Right, so as we
Oh, just jump in, Bobby.
as we were looking at that grant and what the eligible expenses were to cover it, it covers judicial operations as well, and certainly replacing the chairs that are there with something that's easier to clean and that we can keep more hygienic for when we do start up court sessions again. We think meets the criteria of the grant. So we're actually going to be including in the grant you have listed on the agenda for approval tonight to the Bureau of Justice. A $9,000, part of that grant will be $9,000 for the new chairs. So we're going to request from the federal government.
I have a question.
Yes.
When you talk about the grant, I thought it was listed under the police department, judicial, I forget the title. But is that the same thing as the $2 trillion under the CARES Act that are going to be sent to towns?
This is part of the CARE Act funding. It's specifically allocated to the Bureau of Justice Assistance and is earmarked specifically for police departments and judicial operations to help them, the language is like prepare and respond to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
What the federal government has done with a lot of that CARE Act funding is they're chunking it into different existing programs. So, we get these program announcements out, we evaluate to see if we can take advantage of that or not. For example, the county has over 4.5, is it, John? I think about $4.5 million in supplemental CDBG funding. But there's no guidance yet on it.
Right.
There's no formal documentation on what towns can use that for, other than to serve low and moderate income populations. So a lot of that was not, a lot of the money in the CARE Act was not unrestricted aid. It does need to meet certain particular program criteria depending on the grant program that's being funded.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I think
Grant?
Okay, just a couple questions. The HVAC for the library versus and I saw, and I raised my hand on the participant thing. I should have just unmuted. Just also see for the library supplemental funding, it cut by 10,000 to 15,000. Is that the same? Is that the same thing, or those are separate? You know, from my conversations with you, David, those are two separate things.
That's correct.
I just think that's a lot this year, and if we definitely need to replace the HVAC system. So maybe there's a recommending to cut the remainder. Since there was a cut already made of 15,000 or 10,000 to 15,000 that's left. It's just a lot, I think, this year for the library.
Yeah, the library supplemental
Where is that?
was originally
David, where is that?
5,000. The library was last year was 45,000. It came in, 30 in terms of recommendation, then 5, and then 10 came out. So it's down 30,000 from last year, but yet to 15,000 extra there, and then this on the building side.
It's because it's the additional 50,000, which again needs to be done for the HVAC system. That's a lot.
Can I just have a quick question? I'm sorry. This is an HVAC system for the library?
It's
that we spent millions of dollars renovating?
Yeah, it's to replace an air conditioning unit.
Council President Levy, I was there before COVID shut down. Often, my daughter goes to the library every week, and it's definitely something that's needed. So I just think,
I understand that, but again, I just want to understand. We just paid millions of dollars to renovate that library for the past 230 years. And now we have to replace the HVAC unit? Did we not get even like a 20-minute warranty?
No. This HVAC unit was installed, it's probably 16, 17 years old now at this point.
Oh, so this wasn't part of the renovation.
Right. It was, I think it was installed when the renovation first started in like 03, 04. So it's already reached end of life and is in need of replacement. Yeah.
But
we haven't used it during its lifetime.
Wait, my question is, so isn't in 04, wasn't the library under renovation?
The addition was going on, yeah.
So was it you? I mean, I'm trying to understand how long this thing's been used and why it needs to be replaced. What seems like a little early in its life.
2000. The library went through renovations almost 20 years.
I believe there's 3 or 4 units that are functioning over at the library for different parts of the building.
There are. There's a small farm of compressors on the right side of the building that you'll see as you leave
by the elevator.
We think it's more important to put an HVAC system in the library than it is to replace a 20-something-year-old fire truck? Because that was the conversation at a previous meeting.
Just jump in, Bobby. Everybody else is.
You're on mute.
You're muted,
Bobby.
All right.
Bobby?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry.
Okay.
What I'm looking at, the $50,000 for the HVAC in the library is still in the budget.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So is this, why are we talking about this?
I was trying to say that there's in the appropriations, I'd raised my hand, I didn't get to talk then. I just think it corresponds, there's $15,000 for the library supplemental in addition to what they already received, which we showed the pie chart last meeting and we went over all that. So all that considered, I see that there's a reduction 10,000 for, I still think that it should, that 25,000 we shouldn't do this year if we're going to be putting 50 for an HVAC system. I think that's a lot, and it's very important that we do it. But I think that 15 recommended shouldn't be there anymore for that reason.
You're saying to reduce the library even more in that supplemental part. I'm not sure where you're looking on the sheet.
Yeah. On the appropriations,
On the appropriations,
2020
yeah.
appropriations opportunity.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Last year, the library was flat there, and they're saying that if they were to go less, it would be very hard for them.
Well, but they should have had some savings due to staffing reduction, shouldn't they?
Well,
This year?
So last year, and years, remember I questioned this last year, and the library people brought me in there and gave me a tour of the whole place and all that. So the supplemental started years ago, prior to me being on the council, as a standard $45,000. Every year, they get that 1/3 of a mil, which is $800 and something thousand from us based on some formula. And this year, that number increased. And my question was last year, as that number floats, that 45,000 should float. You know, if this is your budget number and the 1/3 of a mil increased by 20 grand, the borough's contribution should decrease by 20 grand. That wasn't happening. I questioned it last year. I got brought down to the library, explained everything, and now this year the 1/3 of a mil increased. So the borough's contribution went down, I believe, to 30. Wasn't it the original 30 or 25?
Originally 30.
Originally 30, then 25, then 15.
Right. So now everybody in the borough has to tighten their belts. So I don't disagree with Grant, and it would be a 1-year, hopefully temporary setback. I do agree with the $50,000 for the HVAC, especially now with COVID. You don't want
They wouldn't be able to open without the air conditioning.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
But the
Yeah.
books and with the computers and books, absolutely.
Not arguing the air conditioning. And I'm
Right.
actually
We need
with-
it.
for this year. The other supplemental, I'm okay with doing, because that's for certain programs and things that may not be being utilized anyway because people can't go in there.
Right.
Agreed.
The
Anybody
library again is saying last year they didn't get an increase. They were the only. They're saying they're the only ones that stayed flat, and they're looking for the money. They make a good argument. And they understand, and they took a lot of money out for what they were asking for beforehand, and now this is where they are.
Anybody else want to comment?
Well, again, Russ, if they're getting more money this year out of the 1/3 of a mil,
And they dropped it. They dropped the supplemental. They lowered it.
and why? I mean,
And last year it was flat. Last year they didn't get the more money. And so it's the same thing. If you don't do it this year, you're gonna have to do it next year.
well, it's funny because I went through the same tour that Bobby went through. They asked me to come in and I sat with Peter, and that was the year that we were just getting ready to reopen the library.
Right.
And I had a long talk with the library director about the supplemental. And we had a discussion about reducing the supplemental, and he said, well, not this year because I really need it. We had to put this on and do this. And I said, okay, then maybe I'll agree to it this year, but reduce it next year.
How much are we talking about,
They
David?
did
This is the year that's got to happen.
I
David,
just think
how much
if we're doing the HVAC system for 50,000, that is very important. It's just that's the spending we should be doing on the library this year, and that's it.
Except I can't see calling the HVAC system for a building as part of helping the library in their needs for their programs and assisting all the children. David, how much are we talking about?
I think they're talking about removing another 15,000 from library supplemental. So we'd be changing the recommendation from a proposed $10,000 cut to a $25,000 cut with an updated recommendation.
We cut the money there from the library they're going to be cutting out programs that they have there. Just so you know, if you do the
library does have a Friends of organization too.
They have this library with Peter is outstanding. The programs they have for the children, for the seniors, for adults, it is incredible. What if we compromise and not cut out all that you want to cut out, but cut out some and reduce it somewhat? And is there any place else we could find some more money?
So another thing, go ahead, Bobby.
Go, Grant.
Another thing I wanted to bring up is the OCC equipment and camera replacements. And as a liaison to that committee, last meeting, we did pass a resolution which was sent to Cablevision, Altice, Optimum, that we were looking to upgrade to 720p for broadcast. I mean, my concern is and I know for YouTube and all our viewers on YouTube, it would increase the quality. But, my thing is this the year to spend to upgrade these cameras, contingent on whether we get this approval to upgrade our output? Because we downgrade, as we discussed last meeting with that resolution. So do we want to upgrade our cameras, given they're not great, the quality's not great, but is this the time to do it, not even knowing yet whether we're going to be able to upgrade the output for television?
What
was the cost of that? What was the cost of that again, Grant? I don't remember.
45. It's 45,000.
Anybody want to comment?
When we were discussing in the finance meeting, we were feeling it's something that needs to be done anyway, and to put off structural stuff, it needs to be done. So that's what we were thinking.
Right, and if we put stuff like that off, all it's going to do is be I believe we talked about a significant, or it would add to a more significant tax increase down the road.
Yes.
And plus the equipment will be more expensive.
Right. We keep kicking the can down the road. Eventually we have to do some of these things. So.
This is how we've gotten into problems with other pieces of our infrastructure. Is this idea that we can try and do it next year, and we can try and do it next year. And all of a sudden, the cost of replacing these things goes up. The degradation to whatever piece of equipment or whatever piece of infrastructure we're discussing gets worse and worse, and it winds up costing the taxpayer more money.
Well, originally the equipment was donated. What Fred Burks did, from what I know from the history of the OCC, he was able to get in and install all the equipment, not at an expense to the town, unless somebody knows otherwise, but that's the history that I learned. I really think maybe a better challenge to the OCC would be to, raise some money and come up with, like the Recreation Commission does, and come up with the funds through newsletter sponsorships or whatever it may be, but come up with some creative ways to come up with that money versus it coming out of the town budget.
Rich, could they sell advertising?
In our newsletter, I'm not sure that we can. Brian, do you have an opinion on that?
We can't advertise on the station, but I don't believe you would be selling advertising in your newsletter either. I mean, these are just informational. Other towns may do it, but I don't think it's valid.
And I know not to disparage our channel, but I don't think anyone would pay to advertise on our channel. No, not too many people watch it.
I would say that Russ Nielsen assessment is correct.
So, can the cameras be used a little bit longer?
Mayor, it was a conversation at the last meeting about doing some fundraising, and $45,000. If the committee can come together and develop a real plan to come up with that money and say, like other groups do, get a grant, get some donations like it was originally due, I think that might be better for our budget than putting it in this year.
But can the cameras last another year?
That I can't answer that. I know one of them is already starting to fail. So this is an urgent need. There's no doubt about it.
So what if we cut 10,000 from the cameras? They can try and fundraise, and we'll give that to the library.
Well, because the ones from Capital, the other's operating, and I'm not sure.
That's your problem.
do the.
Oh, wait,
project
no, Davy Downer's problem.
Partial funding.
Right. So my personal opinion is, I don't necessarily disagree with Grant, but I've struggled with these cameras for quite a while. They serve multiple purposes. I'd like to see them get replaced. And as far as the library goes, I do agree with everyone's assessment there. And by knocking off, we already knocked off, used from the typical 45, we knocked them down to 30 because the mill, the 1/3 mill went up by that balance, 15,000. Then we took another 10, and if the balance of that is 15,000, then I would say we leave the 15,000 because that 15,000, you know, in our budget is really not much, but to them it's probably quite a bit.
I agree.
Right, so what about the cameras?
I agree with Bob on the cameras. I think they should be replaced.
I do too.
And the library?
I don't think we should kick the can down the road anymore on the cameras. We've been talking about it for about 3 years now.
Right, no, but what about the library?
Well, we just discussed the library.
Well, we didn't really discuss.
Bob, didn't you discuss?
Yeah, Bob just discussed it.
Yeah.
Do you agree with Bobby?
I do.
I agree with Bob.
Oh, okay, then we discussed it.
Let's stay with the program.
Okay, anything else?
I don't. Another thing is the 31,000 for the LED sign. That's another thing I think we should cut.
Well, I think the sign is a reflection of the town, and the sign we have now is really outdated. It's awful, and I think an LED sign makes our town look a little more impressive. And we have a donation. How much is that donation?
30,000, give or take.
Yeah, a little bit more. So 37. Oh, what was it? 37, I think.
37,000.
37,000.
And it just gives us a little more class, you know.
And it gives the town a little bit more information, especially during a time like this. We could be reminding people of what to do, what not to do. Just keep it on their minds. And we've been talking about this for 20 years, so.
I would hate to just give away that sign. We're so close. We've been talking about the sign for years.
For years, yeah.
It would add such a nice, and it just would look so nice on our
Whoever made the donation or whatever organizations couldn't come up with the remainder of the funds needed.
Was it an organization?
It was at one donor.
Mm-hmm.
It was one donor, and it was basically a dollar value in lieu of installing a sign itself, because the sign was smaller and didn't have the picture quality that we were looking for.
We could discuss. I just hate.
I just don't think this is the time to do it. Everybody's tightening their belt. This is just not the time for the sign.
This will give people information. People like to know what's going on.
And they have to drive by a sign to get information?
That's right.
Yep. I want to stick with the LED sign for me.
Dave, how much money do we? What's the magic number we're looking for here?
Not really looking for a magic number, Lou. We're just looking at opportunities where we had issues on the revenue side. We didn't want to impact the tax levy. We didn't want to impact future budgets, and the same thing on appropriations. We saw places where we could save some money in this year's budget and thought that we should take advantage of them. That's how we came up with $138,000.
So if me being part of the finance committee along with Russ and you guys, we did all this kind of chopping up in our one finance meeting. Then I thought we talked about a lot of this at the last council meeting. And Grant, I completely agree with your theory, but what I think is going to be the end result, even if we cut the sign 31,000, we cut the library the other 15,000, and we cut the cameras 45,000, you're talking roughly $100,000.
It's a de minimis amount.
Right, $100,000. How's that going to affect the taxpayer David, maybe you could answer that. How much, by knocking off one more $100,000, would
Tax
It theoretically may or may not. Typically, with something like a capital reduction, you would reduce the amount of surplus that you put in the budget. You know, we're treading right on the edge in terms of where we've been with surplus and surplus utilization. We're not going to replenish the amount of surplus this year that we have last year, and next year we won't replenish as much as we did this year. We've tightened the belt on both revenue and appropriations, and eventually we won't be able to contribute the amount that we're contributing each year to the budget, and then that's going to roll over into the tax levy. So we got to be very careful about what we do with surplus and balance. So if you were going to reduce those capital projects and they're not going to disappear, I would recommend that money go back into surplus so that when you do those projects, that money is there to do that.
David, where are we?
Little or no impact, right, David?
The
answer to the question.
Yeah, if you took out 100,000, I think it's $20 to the average home.
But it's a tax point.
It's $20 to the average taxpayer. $20.
$20 a year?
A year, yes.
Excuse me, David, where are we? Are we within the ordinance on our fund balance?
Yes, we are.
If we continue to do these projects that we're talking about, the library, the sign, cameras, are we still going to be, is our fund balance still going to be within the ordinance?
Yes, it is.
So if we do everything we want to do, the library, the cameras, and the sign, and it adds up to what Bobby said, about approximately $100,000, it affects each house, the average household, $20 per year.
That's correct. If you took it out the tax levy instead of putting it back into surplus, it would be a $20 per year for the full year savings to the taxpayer.
I just think that we have to keep moving the town forward. I understand. Bad thing happened. We're going through it, but you know, history has to teach us that we just can't keep kicking the can down the road. There's going to be, you know, every year there's going to be something that we're going to say, oh, gee, wait, let's wait another year. And I just think that's not being good managers.
We've made significant cuts already. We have the police chief and the fire chief go back in the DPW, Anthony, the superintendent, go back and look at their budgets, and they did an outstanding job really cutting a lot of things out. I don't want to say wants versus needs, but needs that can wait a little bit. So I don't know really, how much more do we want to go? Like Lou said, we still have a business to run, which is the borough.
You know, everybody talks about deferring the bills, but at some point those bills are going to be due, and people keep saying, let's defer, let's defer, let's defer. You can't keep doing that. You have to do a little at a time. That's what we have said all along with budgeting. We got to do a little each year instead of just going from zero all the way up in a significant change.
None of that relates to the sign. That's something that doesn't have to be replaced. There's no outcry or outpouring of a new LED sign. And what's the expense of maintaining and replacing that sign when the bill comes due?
Well, I don't think then the cameras are due. It counts. Let me tell you something. That sign will reflect our town, and it would be very nice addition to our town. And Lou is busy working on the downtown. We want to start letting our people be proud of our downtown and the
by
sign.
Spending another $31,000 of their hard-earned dollars on something they're not asking for.
How do you know they're not asking for it? You're not asking for it. How do you know they're not asking for it? You're assuming.
You know, it's funny. I have to tell you, I was on Facebook and we had a little chat going on about downtown redevelopment, and you know what? It was almost 50-50. You know, and we're only talking about maybe 15 people out of 12,000 residents, but between them it was kind of split 50-50. Half of them said, why are we spending money on a sign? And half of them said it's a great idea.
Well, I'd rather people keep that $20 to spend at a takeout order at one of our local restaurants or local businesses than taking it out of their taxes. That's just my.
All right, well, at this point, are there any other questions?
No, but I'll just make a comment. Grant, I would be right on board with you if we weren't getting almost $40,000 contributed to the sign. If we had to pay full boat for the sign, I'd support what you said. But we're paying less than half. I'm okay with doing it.
This has been going on for years. We finally have an opportunity for such a nice sign.
It's been going on this long,
right.
and you still can't come up with the entire cost of the sign. I'd be happy
Well,
to
you want to
entertain a sign
fundraise? No,
if it's
we
going to
have
be
not
paid
been
for.
able to come up with the cost. At this point, anything else? Then, if there's no other discussion, let's hear from everybody. Do you want to go for this group? That's this resolution.
Correct.
So we might as well go with the resolution. The resolution is 20-142 amendment to the budget. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
There was second. Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Knapp.
Yes.
Councilman Levy.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Before I vote, let me just say thank you to the Finance Committee. Thank you to
You're the Finance Committee,
David, and to
You're the chair.
and to Rich, and just thank you for all the hard work. This is just a crazy year, and with all our discussion, even now, so much has gone into this, and everyone cares a whole lot, and I just really thank you to everyone that did it. Thank you to the whole council. This was a very difficult year, and I wholeheartedly vote yes. Thank you.
You did a very good job, Russ, this year on the budget.
I appointed him, don't forget.
All right. Okay, Lou, you did a good job.
Okay, Councilman Van App.
Thank you.
Just before I vote, want to thank Councilman Talamini. Did an amazing job chairing this committee. Rich, David, it was great meeting with you. You spent a lot of time with me as a new councilman. I could see in the cuts that were made, a lot of the recommendations that I brought to your attention, you did make. Thank you for all those cuts. Thank you for the attention you put into this, how organized and how clear and concise it is for us and for our residents. You did a beautiful job. I don't think it went far enough. I think we could have made more cuts, and I prefer people keeping their own money versus taking it in taxes. I think this is a tough year for everyone, so I'm going to vote no.
Okay. All right, it passes. All right, the resolutions, we'll do it as a consent agenda. If you want any pulled out, just let me know. 2143 is to authorize the DOT grant application for Seminole Avenue, and that is identified as MA 2021. It's improvements on Seminole Avenue. 2144 is to authorize Agnoli Engineering stream maintenance manual for Alaman Brook, not to exceed $3,800, and our chief financial officer has certified funds available. 2145, authorize refund of recreation fees. Matthew Pellegrini, $171 for softball and baseball. Brian Kozinek, $146 for t-ball and softball. Lisa Giordano for $68 for t-ball. 2146 is the acceptance of the sculpture. Can't even speak anymore. Swords to Plowshares from Peter Marklis, a local artist. We accepted this donation pursuant to resolution 19208. It's been erected at Great Oak Park, complete on April 6, 2020. The borough has inspected and approved the installation of the sculpture, and the borough formally accepts the sculpture, swords and plowshares installed at Great Oak Park. And it's resolved that we will undertake responsibility and liability for the sculpture as of April 6, 2020. And the borough will be responsible for maintaining the sculpture and its seat wall pedestal. And that the borough wishes to thank Peter Marklis for his very generous donation. And if you haven't seen it, I suggest you go look at it. You can
Mayor, I went down to see it, and it's even more impressive in person than it was on paper.
Oh, it's incredible. And if you park in the bowling alley parking lot, you could walk to the sculpture easily that way. Resolution 2147, pledge of the municipal support for New Jersey's Wildlife Action Plan. And the plan is in support of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, Division of Fish and Wildlife, state level priority conservation goals and strategies. And New Jersey, believe it or not, is the home of rich diversity of wildlife. 2148, approval of the dog park. Resident Brian Schwartzberger has led an extensive effort, began 11 years ago. Great Oak Park, Environmental Commission, Shade Tree Commission have reviewed and endorsed the plan. The dog park will benefit the residents of Oakland, constructed applicable to all laws, rules, and regulations. While tree removal and planting will be in accordance with the plan review with the Shade Tree Commission. Final acceptance of the project will assume ongoing routine maintenance of the dog park, and the council approves the name of the dog park, the Jill Schwartzberger Memorial Dog Park, in memory of Ryan's late mother, who inspired him to undertake this initiative. 2149 is authorized Boswell Engineering superstructure replacement of Patriots Way Bridge, amount not to exceed $210,000, broken down as follows: survey $10,100, highway $46,880, environmental permitting $8,500, structures and utilities $114,920, inspection during design phase $14,800, municipal $14,800. CFO has certified the funds are available. Resolution 2151 is to the Director, Division of Local Government may improve the insertion of any special item of revenue in the budget, and this has to do with the BMed and other expenses. 2151 is the Borough of Oakland has received notification Sustainable New Jersey grant in the amount of $20,000 from the PSE&G Foundation for the creation of a community garden, and wishes to amend its 2020 budget to include this amount as revenue. And thank you again to Allison Fleeson and Carol Peterson for really pushing to get this grant. And then, because this wasn't in the original packet, 2152 is authorized grant application for the COVID-19 expenses from the Bureau of Justice Assistance. They made funding available to assist police departments and courts in preventing and preparing for and responding to the coronavirus. And that was 152. 2153 is hire seasonal labor for the Department of Public Works. Bradley Hildebrand, starting June 1st, $12 an hour. James Lapone, June 1st at $12 an hour. Francis Leonardis, June 1st, $12 an hour. Any wish to pull out? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Knapp.
Yes.
Councilman Levy.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Before I vote, I just want to congratulate Ryan Schwartzberger. If anybody saw the News 12 special piece done on the dog park, it was really great. And just really happy that this dog park is moving forward after all his hard work. So I vote yes.
Thank you. There are no ordinance work session proposed. I'm really having trouble speaking tonight. Proposed ordinance on chickens. Does anybody remember the long discussions we have on chickens right near you?
That's true.
There she is.
There she is.
Public.
All right, let's discuss chickens.
Mayor, on the chickens,
Where are
think,
you? Oh. Yes.
I think what was proposed was that the acreage be reduced from 1 acre to a lower amount. I really think 1 acre is what we should be pushing, rather than reduce it to I don't know. My property is 60 by 125. I really don't think we should be reducing it for fowl.
But at the time, we didn't get any complaints. We just never got around to passing the ordinance. When we
I think that if we made it any lower, we would preclude that young girl from continuing
Right.
her chicken
And,
raising.
and yeah, just because I have a little bit of local knowledge, her, and I understand that this would have to apply to everybody, but in her case, her property backs up to undevelopable property. So, it's not going to bother anybody. So I would certainly not want to.
But how do you pick and choose properties?
Do we know what size her property is or was?
But it's not her who was asking.
Probably 50 by 100, I would imagine.
But it's not the young girl who's asking. It's a second resident.
I agree with the mayor on this. You can't pick and choose.
Oh, I know.
Yes, Bob, you keep shaking your hand.
Oh, I'm trying to be polite. Didn't we discuss maybe not so much reducing the property size, but by putting in a
Clause.
maybe 10 feet off the property line or 15 feet off the property line, something to that effect?
Brian, did you start writing the ordinance the last time?
We had several discussions, but the council did not make a decision. And what we discussed was A, what you're discussing here, a reduction in the size of the property, or B, do you get rid of the size of the property and regulate the keeping of chickens in some other manner? Meaning, do you have setbacks, numbers, number of chickens, and the like?
Isn't there something in the zoning ordinance that does that?
What was that, Pat?
Isn't there something in the zoning ordinance that does what Brian was saying?
Not yet.
The only thing that's there, which was what was included in your packet, is 5949 residential zones. And it says that you can keep cattle and poultry
Right.
for personal use if you have 1 acre or more of property.
Right, but then the discussion was that was really largely about cattle, which obviously would require a lot of property. Chickens don't require the same amount of property.
They're a little bit smaller.
A little.
Yeah.
I think the problem that the council encountered is that we were looking at all animals when first chickens came up. But if you look at this, is that in Oakland, you're allowed to keep 3 head of cattle if you have an acre. I don't know who's keeping cattle in Oakland, so.
Well, I do have Bessie out back.
Yeah, there are a few issues here, is that, you can regulate it as it is regulated here based upon the size of the property, or as indicated in Councilman Knapp's statement regarding by providing appropriate setbacks. But you also have to be cognizant of the size of properties that you have in your town. There's certainly a distinction with the setbacks on half-acre properties than on 50 by 100 properties.
But all right, but Councilman Pignatelli has neighbors, whereas the young girl who lived near Lou, as he stated, backs up into undeveloped property.
Well, she has neighbors on the side, though.
Right. So how it would affect Councilman Pignatelli may not affect the young girl's neighbors. And it didn't affect Lou, who lives near her. Did you ever get your eggs?
No.
Can I say one more thing?
Wait, can I ask a question, Brian? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pat.
If you do permit it, I'm looking at the existing ordinance that we have now. If you do permit it, there has to be very stringent requirements about cleaning up the feces, about any foul odor, about attracting any other wild animals. You really have to address quite a few different areas rather than just, okay, if you have a piece of property, you can have chickens. You have to say how many they're limited to. So there's quite a bit to go with the ordinance rather than just yes or no.
Could we have Brian send us a sample ordinance, have it discussed at the Board of Health meeting?
Well,
sure.
The last ordinance I think I circulated when I took a look at this was Atlantic Highlands, which was very comprehensive regarding the regulation of all sorts of animals. You know, if I look at this and say, what am I going to do to change this ordinance? Is that you have, you know, do you want to cover all these types of animals? And then if you're only interested in chickens or fowl, then do you have a carve out? Meaning, do I keep pigs?
Yeah, what are those little pigs called?
Pigs.
Little
pig.
You know what I'm talking about? Those little
piglets.
They're called.
They're called sausage links or patties.
No, they're not. What are they called, Richard?
Potbelly pig.
Potbelly.
Potbelly or it's a Vietnamese pig. I mean, there's a lot of different.
Right, and the council did not want to allow that at the last time we spoke about it.
And the other thing you shouldn't allow either is if they keep chickens, that they can't have a rooster.
Right, I remember that came up in the previous conversation as well.
So my suggestion is have Brian pass around, do a sample ordinance, submit it to the Board of Health for their meeting to discuss it, because they know the best way to handle the health wise of it.
I would, you know, are you going to allow them to do free range, or are you going to make them keep them in a coop?
I have no idea.
I'm just saying there's a lot to consider, not just yes or no.
It would probably be a coop. I mean, the Wayne ordinance regulates chickens in a manner that I guess Pat and Bob were discussing, in terms of you have a coop, you have a limit on the number of chickens. That limit on the number of chickens may be based upon the lot size. You don't have a rooster, and you have certain
sanitary,
aesthetic and sanitary requirements.
Sure.
So, I mean, I can, you know, give you a couple samples for your next meeting.
So do you think you could do that, Councilman Pignatelli, and discuss this at the Board of Health, put it on their agenda?
As long as Brian sends a sample resolution, yeah.
When's the next meeting?
The 19th of May, I believe.
No.
That's next year.
Past the 19th.
Can't be.
I'm
We're
sorry.
going back to the future.
I'm sorry.
It's June 16th.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're
So
welcome.
Brian, could you
June
get it?
16th.
I will give you a couple samples, Pat.
Thank you.
Remember, Pat, we can't have a fox in the hen house.
Okay. So the next one is Clean Energy Direct Install Program.
Okay, Mayor, thank you. I covered this a little bit in my memo. So we've been working on a project with the Green Team to take advantage of a program that's offered through the DEP Department of Clean Energy Program through the DEP with the aim to upgrade the energy efficiency of the borough's physical plant. In large measure, that's lighting, converting most of our fluorescent lights to LED lights, and also select upgrade to HVAC systems and boiler systems as well. Whether or not a facility is eligible for HVAC or boiler upgrades is kind of dependent on the program criteria and the analysis that the state's vendor does to see if it fits the return on investment parameters. And just to kind of head off a aha sort of realization, we did look at trying to get the HVAC replaced through, for the library through this program as well. But for whatever reason, that was deemed ineligible. But we did look at most of the other borough facilities, and you can see it covers improvements in the senior center, rec shed, the Firehouse 3, Firehouse 1, Borough Hall, DPW building, Firehouse 2, police, pretty much almost all the rest of our facilities, except for the wells and sewers, are included here. The assessment gets done, the vendor and the state determine how much of the total cost is going to be covered by the state. It's not technically a grant, I guess, but how much the program is going to cover directly. That looks like it'll be about 200 or about an incentive amount of just shy of $150,000 would leave us with a cost of about $130,000 or so on our end to cover both things that are considered in scope and out of scope. Out of scope typically is some additional, electrical system upgrades and things like that to make everything work. So based on the vendor's analysis, they're showing annual cost savings of about $40,000 and a payback period of about 3 years to our net cost. So based on that, it would look like it's a good idea to pursue the program and take advantage of this. And if we can do this year, we should be able to realize some nice budget savings on the operating cost side in next year's budget. Okay. And with that, I'll just open it up to any questions or comments.
Sounds like a
All right, I
win-win.
guess not. We have somebody? No?
No.
All right.
Anybody?
New business. Any new business?
I have new business.
Is everybody? So everybody's good with this? We're going to proceed.
Yes.
And
Yes.
all right, it is also part of Sustainable Jersey, so there's some work there to do to get points for that as well. So we'll start proceeding, and then you'll see some of this come back around in the capital budget authorization when we do that in June, July. Okay, thank you.
Okay, new business. Pat?
Yes. I was approached by Chief Matt Goodridge from the First Aid Squad to ask the council to consider whether or not they would relax the LoSAP requirements. Don't forget, they have not been able to meet for almost 3 months. We just started a meeting now that you can have 10 people. But a lot of their training has been postponed because of the coronavirus, the meetings. So the point system that we used in order to be eligible for LoSAP is going to be lower now because of these two past things. So he'd like the council to consider lowering the point system for eligibility for LoSAP for this year.
Go ahead, Bobby?
Yeah, so Pat, I approached Rich with this for the fire department and the first aid squad probably a month ago. And Rich is going to look into some things. I made a few suggestions. He was going to talk to David and get back to all of us. It's not just the first aid squad that's impacted. It's the fire department is equally impacted. So something needs to be done across the board. I made a few suggestions to Rich, and when I think once they look at everything, we could talk about that further. But
great, thank you. And the other thing, I just want to make sure tonight's vote on the budget was just on the supplemental budget. We still have to vote on the entire budget, right, Rich?
So your vote was to introduce, by passing the resolution, you introduced the amendment.
Right.
So at the next council meeting, you will have a public hearing on the amendment and then a final vote on the adoption of the 2020 budget as amended.
Correct. So we just introduced it now.
Right. Correct.
Thank you.
I just want to bring up the opening of the batting cages, like we talked about the last meeting. The new business was to phase in phase 2 of the Recreation Commission's plan, which was the tennis courts and the batting cages. Tennis courts have opened, so just bringing up the, based on the state's recommendations that are moving forward to open up the batting cages as well.
I thought we opened the batting cages, Richard.
No, I thought the understanding was that that we couldn't yet.
Couldn't yet.
No, we could. I announced it. The governor said we could open up batting cages.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So we just
They were supposed to have been opened.
Then which part of it am I thinking of?
So the tennis courts we talked about last meeting as batting cages, right. But at the time it was just the state regulation was just tennis courts. We found out after the meeting, but since then the batting cages have also been authorized. So I just wanted to bring up to make sure that we do open up that the batting cages are open.
I just got a message from a resident. They're open and being used.
They may be open already.
I got a message. They're open.
I had spoken to a number of baseball families that have been down there using it.
They're open.
Yeah.
All right, so we did that.
Sounds good.
Open, and Mike Guadino knew they were open. We talked about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good, Bobby.
With the modification the governor put out for high school and school graduations, has anyone heard of any of our schools making some sort of.
I assume during Councilman Talamini's report on the schools, he would give a report.
Yes, I have some information that I'll do.
Sorry, Russ.
No problem.
Okay, anybody else have new business? Old business?
Yes,
Council business.
business. I'm gonna ask my learned engineer, John Yakimic.
What are you speaking on?
We actually have the answer to that, Pat. You want the answer?
Wait a minute, I didn't say anything yet.
I just got another message.
The state actually did the traffic count.
Mr. Levy. I have the floor, Mr. Levy.
Wait a minute.
Okay,
wait a
we know
minute.
the answer.
Wait a minute. Everybody stop. I just got a message from. Did everybody get that message on their screen?
Yeah.
No.
From a resident. It looks like Round Pole Indian Hills is having a virtual graduation. Did everybody else see that?
No.
Oh. Okay. Go ahead and speak, Councilman Pignatelli.
Thank you, Mayor. There are 3 items, Mr. Yakimic, that I'd like to talk about.
Sure.
The traffic study, the 287 sign, and the the sound strip on Skyline Drive.
Great. So with regard to the traffic study, we got word very recently that the county will not be doing it. Now, they have the traffic information so that the borough will have to interpret it and to make recommendations to the county how to change the striping.
Wait a minute. They said we had
They did the counts.
that the
They did the
county
counts, Pat.
pay for the traffic study.
Well,
No, they paid for the counts.
so that was clarified this past week. So I have to prepare, I talked with Rich, we're gonna prepare a proposal for the next meeting to have our traffic expert at Boswell interpret the counts and to
Okay.
give recommendations on the striping.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, wait a minute. This is a mini version of Councilman Talamini. He looks just like you.
Wait, that looks like the brains of the operation.
Oh my God. It's like 2 of them, like twins. A few ages apart.
I always knew he was good looking.
Time out,
Oh.
please. Time out, please.
Okay,
Sorry,
Council,
I
Continue
got
with
carried
Mr.
away,
Yakimic's
Councilman.
report.
Councilman, I apologize. I got carried away when I saw the young Talamini.
question number 2 with the truck accidents on Interstate 287. Unfortunately, we've had a couple of them since the last time you've inquired on this. One that happened, I'm going to say last month, we sent, I believe, photographs of the event to the state and emphasizing to them how frequent this happens and that they must do something. And then I believe we invoked some of the state representatives that we had at that time. So we're doing all we can with that. Quite frankly, I don't know what else to do with that. We've sent them the study, the traffic counts with 287, the accident history. We've interpreted to the DOT. So all we're hearing is crickets from them.
Well,
We,
what I'd like to
the
recommend,
last time we took a bus tour, which we can't do now.
Right, so the DOT works for somebody like the governor, so can't we escalate this? Because Pat's right, this is beyond ridiculous. The northbound from 57 through 58 to, that's cement. I saw them out there filling potholes the other day, and they're fixing the Jersey barrier because we've had 2 more crashes since the last time we talked about this. But this is a bunch of BS, to be perfectly
Well,
honest.
I have a question. I have a question to everybody, including Brian. 287 is interstate. What if we got the federal government involved?
State highway.
The interstate, even though it's an interstate, the jurisdiction rests with the various states.
what I'd like to recommend, John, is that we send letters again to Senator Cardinale, Holly Schapese, Assemblywoman Holly Schapese, and Assemblyman North, telling them the history of what you have done and that we are not hearing anything in return. and hopefully they'll put some more pressure on them.
Assemblyman Orth has been very good to us.
John,
He
will
really
you do
has
that?
been the best to us.
John,
And that's,
John, will you do that? You Kimmick?
If that is the wishes of the council and the administrator.
Does anybody have a problem with that on the council?
no. Bobby, is there, Councilman Nab, does the weather affect it, like if it rain, is that more prevalent towards the accidents?
Well, yeah, I mean, now you're bringing up, absolutely it does. So there's a whole bunch of issues. Pat's right about the sign coming northbound. We need to put a warning sign up there to slow people
Right.
down. The rain makes that part of the road, because in my opinion, and I'm just your average driver, that road is pitched a little wrong. Then we have drainage issues on top of that, which there's a storm drain there that clogs with all road debris. And ironically, once we clear it, it just dumps all the oil and gas straight into the Rampo River. So that was a brilliant design from day one. But once what happens is that storm drain clogs and the entire slow lane becomes 6 to 8 inches of water. And then everybody gets pushed out into the further lanes.
Yep.
So there's numerous issues there. I wish they would get rid of all that cement, put asphalt down, pave it nice, the way, up from the billboard down, blacktop. And everything we're talking about would go away, all of it. And now blacktop petroleum's cheap. Now's the time to do it.
Do you have that written down, Richard?
And John?
I saw John bring it.
I have it.
We can't take everybody on a bus anymore, but if we go separately in cars.
All right, one other thing that we didn't mention is Skyline Drive.
Right. Councilman Skyline Drive, I had a personal conversation with Joe Femia last month on that, who's the Bergen County engineer. I reminded him of the fatality that we had on that stretch of roadway last year. He's promised me he's going to fast track improvements to put the red sure grip material on the road in the area where the accident occurred. And that he talked with Tom Connolly about that. And
wait a minute. Why does Snap say no?
Because it's junk. It'll last for a year or two, and then it becomes worn off here because of ice getting under it and water getting under it. It freezes. It lifts. We've had it in town numerous times.
With all due respect, Councilman, I've seen it applied successfully in many other towns, and yes, you're right. I do know of these instances where it is not applied correctly, and you could have these problems with it. But if it's applied correctly and with the correct quality control, it could last. I've seen it last up to 10 to 15 years on the road.
Well, every time we've had it put in Oakland, it was put in by the county, and it was apparently never applied correctly.
I understand your concern, and we'll bring it up with the county.
Okay.
I thought we were talking about like a strip going up the middle, a rumble strip.
Right. Grooving the road under the.
I just went up Skyline Drive yesterday, and there was something in the middle of Passaic County.
That's Passaic County.
Passaic County.
Yeah, I said Passaic County.
And we were also pursuing that as well. I did not receive a response from the county engineer with that simple measure, just to put it in.
I think of the two, John. I mean, I don't want to disagree with you on the non-slip surface, but I think of the two, the rumble strip in the middle, I think it would do a better job. But
well, it would do a better job, and it would cost much less, and it would also erase the concerns that Councilman Knapp has with regard to that other material.
Well, maybe we'll get back to them, please, and discuss that with them.
Yep, I have Joe's cell phone number. I'll give him a call tomorrow.
Thank you.
I just didn't want you to sit there the entire meeting and not have any input. I mean,
I'll keep talking if you want.
No, we'll go on. Anybody else have new business? All right, council reports. We'll start the way the days is. We'll start with Councilman Benek.
Did we do old business?
Yes, we did that.
Okay. So I'm going to do the planning board very quickly. There's no decision yet on whether the June meeting will be held or not. That announcement will be made shortly. The Recreation Commission, this is a long report, just letting you know. So here we go. The Rec Commission has made the first level of recommendations to the borough, which would begin to make the rec complex safer, and the Oakland parents feel their children are the commission's #1 priority. First, the bathrooms. Presently, we have automatic flushers and sinks. The recommendation is that there's an installation of automatic soap and to leave the doors ajar or open during rec hours to keep things as low to no touch as possible. The suggestion by the Rec Commission is purchasing an automatic sprayer to be placed high in the corners for each bathroom. Many of you may have seen that in public bathrooms before. That'll spray a Lysol aerosol into the bathrooms at certain intervals. Also, for the men's room, there should be a plastic divider placed in between each stall. More information than some people may have wanted. But we don't have that, and that's something that should be put in. Presently, there's no hiring of an attendant, but as restrictions get lifted, the measures for greater safety may need to start, so that's something to consider. The Rec Commission doesn't suggest that there is not a porta potty for Field 8, but we will need to speak with the vendor about porta potties at Dogwood, Truman, and Wells to see what they have done to improve sterilization, and then make a decision on whether those porta potties would be safe. Second, the commission would like Purell dispensers Purell dispensers at locations such as the non-mural side of the Delia building, the tennis courts, the roller rink, and all fields, depending on what the configuration of the season will be. Third, an outdoor hand washing station with foot pedals would be helpful. So on the non-mural side of the Danny D building, along Jimmy's building, and in place of the water fountain by Field 8, replacing the fountain with a no-touch sink, and so would be a good idea. There should be water access at all these locations. The Mothers Club has made a donation to the commission for the purchase of iPads to be used by all summer camp counselors. So thank you to the Mothers Club. That is a really great and generous donation. The commission has asked the borough to make the necessary adjustments so there is Wi-Fi on the whole complex, which the commission will pay for out of their trust account. So without the it's just going to be, there's no point in having iPads without Wi-Fi. Tonight, there is a meeting with the summer camp program to discuss the changes and adaptations that the state government will allow camp to proceed or not. On Monday, June 8th, 8 p.m., the full commission will meet to discuss the fate of baseball, softball, lacrosse, and the summer sports clinics and summer camp, as well as the other adaptations they feel will make help to the recreation fields and the park safer. After this meeting, the commission will bring forth their plans to the governing body. The meeting will be held on Zoom and open to the public. I want to thank Mike Guadino for doing such a great job and his leadership during the commission during this time. The OCC report, parents of 5th, 8th, and high school and even college graduates. The Oakland TV committee wants to recognize and congratulate the graduates as part of the weekly program. This Week in Oakland, email your graduate's photo and your graduation garb, or at least professionally dressed, to your graduate's name as it would be seen on their diploma, to occ@oakland-nj.org no later than June 20th. The information and photos we receive will be turned into a slideshow and air as a part of This Week in Oakland in celebrating the class of 2020. The next episode of This Week in Oakland is now airing and will be seen on the Borough YouTube account. So keep in mind, 9 a.m. and 6:30 and midnight every day. It also airs on TV. The next Borough newsletter will be going out on June 1st. So if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and go to the Communication Commission webpage on the Borough website and click the red banner to subscribe. You can mention, Yes, so the Ponds Church is now submitting programming to Oakland TV in addition to OLPH. The Mass for OLPH continues to air at 10 a.m. and now the Ponds Church service airs at 11:15. So it's great to have another house of worship to come on and broadcast their programming, as this is not any violation of the First Amendment and separation of church and state, as some people might think. Thank you.
Have you been meeting to talk about the bylaws?
The bylaws, we're only waiting for one line from the TV committee. When the TV committee gets back, the bylaws will be approved. We're just waiting for one specific section from the TV committee. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Council, did I lose count? I keep losing squares. Councilman Talamini, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you must be off. Okay.
Okay, so the library is open 24/7 via the internet. So please remember at oaklandlibrary.org, Oakland, New Jersey library.org. All right, thank you very much. The schools. So a couple announcements with the schools. As you know, there was talk about graduation, virtual graduation, and what's going to happen. So just recently, the governor has said that the schools can have virtual graduations as of July 6th, I think is the earliest.
Outdoor.
Outdoor while observing social distancing. So I've been contacted by both superintendents, and the high school has announced that they're planning a July 29th graduation, and this was via an email prior to my meeting, because the dates may change because they're having their meeting right now, so something might be different than what I'm telling you. But they're planning a July 29th meeting at 5 p.m. at Indian Hills and at 7 p.m. at Ramapo. And there'll be more details to come. The elementary schools in Oakland, they are planning a virtual graduation right now. They've contacted a company who's going to do the virtual graduation, and as of right now, they're planning that. And now there's discussion about the outdoor graduation, but really they only got this information on Tuesday, maybe Monday, and so they're processing it. It's difficult, all the information keeps changing. They're doing what they can. Besides being party planners, they're also educators, and they have to do other things also. But they'll try to figure out what they're doing with that, and also if they were to have an outdoor graduation, it would be a split graduation, because when you read the order, there's only so many people that are allowed, and so it would have to be 2 graduations anyway. So they're trying to figure out what they're doing there. But both superintendents said they wanted to thank the mayor and council and Chief Sanzari for just all the communication and just being willing to help with whatever they asked for. And and before I forget, the elementary schools, for the 8th grade families, they purchased a pizza for every 8th grade family this week, because they were supposed to be on their Philadelphia trip, and so in the just a little consolation prize, they got a pizza for the graduates.
That's so nice.
Yeah, and so then the finance, we had our budget meeting tonight, so nothing really to add in finance, and I think that is it. Thank you.
I'm trying to have everybody sit. Oh, John is next. John Bialy.
Yes, Mayor, thank you so much. At the Senior Center, Ariel continues to coordinate the volunteer food shopping program for seniors and those in the community with disabilities or medical conditions preventing them from food shopping. If anyone needs assistance, they can reach out to Ariel at the Senior Center at 201-405-7731. They're also having a free Zoom fitness class weekly. They're open to the entire community. Those interested are asked to register on Community Pass. More information on how to register is available on the Oakland Facebook. If anyone needs assistance, I ask that they call Ariel at the center. Same number, 201-405-7731. The classes are Tuesdays from 1 to 2. That's the Fit for Life class, which is a cardio, toning, and balance class. And Thursdays from 3 to 3:45 is the Zumba class. And the Senior Center virtual art exhibit is now live and available to view via the Oakland website. A link to the exhibit can be found on the Senior Services section of the website and on the Oakland Facebook page. For DPW, street sweeping is starting up again, and a street sweeper contractor recently completed the first of 2 annual borough-wide street cleanings. Moving forward on a monthly basis, the contractor will continue to sweep all school routes, the downtown area, and all roads directly connected to the Municipal Plaza and our recreation complex. A second borough-wide street cleaning is scheduled for early November. Potholes, we are reminding residents to report all potholes to DPW by filling out a service request or on the borough website, or by calling the Public Works building directly at 201-337-8103. To date, Public Works crews have repaired 877 potholes. That's just this year. Fire hydrant flushing is starting up again, and you'll notice that the water department employees are flushing, inspecting, and repairing fire hydrants throughout the borough during the months of June, July, and August. This work is considered necessary preventive maintenance and will in no way affect the drinking water quality or cause a disruption in water service. Electronics recycling. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Public Works suspended curbside electronics collectible during the months of April and May, but we are pleased to announce that our DPW will resume their collection of electronics as scheduled on Wednesday, June 3rd. Residents are asked to call the Public Works Department at 201-337-8103 to be placed on the collection list. Moving forward, electronics will be collected on the first and third Wednesdays of each month. And I just want to send out a shout to Ron Beatty for organizing and paying special tribute to our fallen soldiers and those injured in combat on Veterans Day, on Memorial Day, over at Pond Cemetery. And I want to send out a special thanks to our own Pat Pignatelli for bringing his bagpipes and showering us with great national patriotic music during the ceremony. So a few of the our American Legion guys showed up, and it was early in the morning. So we all appreciate the ceremony that was given, considering that we didn't have a parade, we didn't have the normal ceremony over at the Veterans Park, but I did notice that there are organizations that send over their wreaths. So I applaud everyone that did, and a special thanks to all our veterans out there during this time. That's my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to congratulate Dana Andro and Elizabeth Acholo for volunteering for the Green Team. And also congratulations to Carol and Allie for the $20,000 grant for the community garden. This is going to be such an exciting program to have here in town. A lot of people, even not only because of the COVID-19, but a lot of people love gardening, and this will give them an opportunity to have a small plot, but have the vegetables that they do like. Also for the Environmental Commission, due to the COVID-19, many organizations have had to come up with alternative programs. The Environmental Commission has come up with a unique way to have the annual town cleanup, and that's going to be June 13th and June 14th. They invite you to join with your family to clean up your favorite places in Oakland. Grab a bag and head to your favorite park, neighborhood, or route to school, and clean up the area. Please dispose of your litter in garbage bags and your garbage pail on your regular trash pickup day. Clean recyclables may be recycled at your regular pickup day. Please be safe. Wear gloves and masks if you're going to be near other people, and maintain proper social distancing. Main roads with no sidewalks should be avoided until proper traffic control measures can be secured. In order to register, email assistant admin, that's ASSISTAMIN, assist admin, Oak dash letter and social media. And I believe that's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Lee.
Thank you, Mayor. The Flood Commission actually has not met since the start of COVID-19. Run flood insurance seminar using Zoom, YouTube, I guess 2 Fridays ago, and very happy to report that the Oakland at knowyourfloodrisk.com has seen, I think when I checked last week, we were up to 30 inquiries. I know that saved something in the neighborhood of almost $15,000 to $18,000 on residents' flood insurance, just by helping them follow proper procedure. So we're hoping that more people contact Oakland at knowyourfloodrisk.com. You have to supply your flood declaration page and your flood elevation certificate if you have one, and they can analyze that and help you get your flood insurance rates down, which is important. They went up another 9% this year, so mine was actually going to go up to about $8,600. So I'm certainly glad that I got the reduction that I got. And I know some of my neighbors here have gotten significant reductions. 2 of them got very healthy refunds because they were overcharged for this year. So we encourage everybody to go on the Borough website. You can get the Oakland at knowyourfloodrisk.com. You can get in touch with them and they'll work on getting your flood insurance down. The Shade Tree Commission will have a virtual Zoom meeting on the first Monday of June at 7 o'clock. Well, I'd say be in the conference room at Borough Hall, but it'll be on my living room or your living room if you want to attend. We're working on, Shade Tree is working currently on still trying to finalize the new Shade Tree Ordinance. I know we submitted some stuff to Brian for his review, and pending that coming back, we hope to have this new ordinance in place sooner rather than later. And just please, everybody, they did want me to remind everybody, if you've gotten permits to take down trees, which you must get, there is usually a replacement tree involved on your property, or you must pay into a fund so that we can plant trees. We want to not lose trees on our canopy here. That's the purpose of it. So that's it, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman
Could I just add one thing to Lou's report?
No. Lou, will you let him add something?
Just please.
Oh, fine.
If you live in a flood area, listen to Councilman Levy. He helped a family, a couple that I know out with their insurance, and they are so happy. They can't stop talking about Lou. Every time I see them, they mention Lou and everything that he did for them. So
okay, you can mention that.
Please listen to Councilman Levy. He could help. He has good information about what you should do in terms of your flood insurance. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm running for election next year. He can say that. It's fine.
Mayor, also would
Thank
like
you, Russ.
one real quick thing. I'm still seeing some gloves and masks being thrown around town. Please, please pick up your mask, take it home and throw it in the garbage. Don't throw it out on the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman, I think it's your turn.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. So from the police department, April was a critical month for the police department to implement and apply adjusted policies and procedures that are in place due to COVID-19 pandemic. The PD was successful in ensuring health and safety of the police officers and support staff while continuing to provide necessary services to the public. Officers will continue to conduct their work responsibilities careful as COVID-19 pandemic continues. The PD will look forward to adjust its operations and begin the process of returning to normal, or as close to normal as soon as possible, and in the coming months, and as soon as the COVID-19 restrictions are lifted. But yet during the month, they still had to respond. I just have a couple stats: 35 burglar alarms. I'm not going to get into all the stats like I typically do because they're a little skewed. I'll just jump right over to first aid. First aid for the month, police went on all these calls. They had 21 local ambulance requests in the borough, which took up 42 hours. They had an on duty, meaning standby on call, waiting for unfortunate things to happen. 931 hours. Year to date, they're at 186 calls for 372 hours, and on duty 3355 hours. So total hours so far volunteered to the town is approaching 4,000 for the first aid squad. Fire department for the month of April, 25 calls for 140 hours. Year to date, 92 calls for 670 hours, and thus far 725 hours to the borough. And remember, the first aid squad and the fire department all 100% volunteers, so just keep that in mind.
And they do a wonderful job.
Yeah, thank you. Great Oak Park is continuing. We know about the dog park being approved, and they're working on the lawn. We're pushing back the band shell construction, being people really couldn't go to it anyway. But now that things are starting to get lifted, that may change a little bit. But just happy to say progress continues in that park from a whole bunch of different avenues. And that's my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, motion's open.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, mute us, Mike.
Okay, so members of the public, if you would like to speak, please select the raise your hand button found on the top right-hand corner, or click on participants and click on the raise hand button. Mayor, I see no one raise their hand.
Okay.
Motion to
Mute.
close.
Motion to close.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bills to be paid, Councilman Talamini.
Bills to be paid, $328,126.23. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilman Bialy,
Yes.
Councilman Knapp,
Yes.
Councilman Levy,
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli,
Yes.
Councilman Talamini,
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
So at this time, we're going to adjourn for executive session. So Mike, do you know what to do?
Sorry, I was muted. Everyone will be removed from the meeting, so please give me 1 moment.
Mayor, we need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So John Yakima could leave.
Bye,
David
John.
Young could leave,
Bye,
right?
Dan.